Welcome back to Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, where we're still going through the tavern, talking to everyone. Let's talk to Anivia. Anivia, in her muted colors, blends almost perfectly into the background. She appears relaxed, but her seemingly unfocused eyes are taking in everything around her, tracking and filtering potential threats. The only tell is the way she drums her fingers on her hip near her weapon sheath. She shows no sign of her injuries and confidently leans on her previously broken leg. She pretends to have just noticed you, even though she watched you approach from afar. Oh, hey! See how they patched me up? Now I can run, jump, or dance a jig if I feel like it. Are there any suspicious places in the city that I should pay attention to? There were a couple of spots I wanted to check out, but I didn't have time. If there really is a den of cultists there, it would be good if you could swoop in there and bust some heads. You don't even need a search warrant. Anivia shoots you a crooked smile. First one is the Silken Thread. It's a funny little tailor shop that doesn't take any orders and never buys any fabric. They always seem so busy. They're busy with something in there alright, but sewing it ain't. Okay. Second one is the Alchemy shop. Topaz Solutions. And they trade in everything, not just healing potions. Judging by the ingredients they've been buying on the black market, there's something fishy about the alchemical rituals going on in that place. Alright, tell me about yourself. She shrugs with a lazy smile. I'd be happy to, but there's kinda nothing to tell. What's so interesting about me? Where are you from? Nowhere. I was blown in by the wind and found in a cabbage patch. She stops short. Sorry, that's an old habit of mine. I don't like blabbing about my past, but you saved my skin, so I guess I kinda owe it to you not to clown around, right? I'm from Nidal, and I wouldn't wish my homeland on my worst enemy. You've heard of the place, I'm sure, ruled by monsters that aren't alive nor dead, and the official religion is the cult of Zon Kuton. I grew up in a slum, like a weed between the cobblestones. I didn't have a dad, but had lots of aunts and uncles. My mom's cronies. No prize for guessing the kind of business she was involved in. They gave me a set of lockpicks as soon as I could hold a spoon, and while other kids were picking their noses, I was picking pockets. So Nidal is one of the oldest surviving countries in Avistan, having been founded during the uncounted years of the Age of Darkness. Even though it's now beholden to the neighboring infernal realm of Cheliax, it retains significant autonomy to pursue its own shadowy goals. Zon-Kuton, the deity Zon-Kuton, also known as the Midnight Lord, the Dark Prince, and the Prince of Pain, God of Darkness, Envy, Loss, and Pain, possesses one of the most twisted and evil minds in the Great Beyond. His position as a god of pain is well earned, and he has been the root of countless tortures, murders, and worse throughout time. He was once a benevolent demigod named Dubral, but was corrupted when he traveled to the far dark places between the planes and returned in his current form. His half-sister Shellen still holds out hope that she can redeem him, though the Lord of Shadows shows no signs of remorse or compassion. Okay. When I was 12, the monks of the Silent Shroud came for us. Creepy guys with their mouths sewn shut. They're the guards in Nisroch. Mom gave me to her friends, and we hid in a secret temple of Desna. I never saw my mom again. I lay low in the temple for the next few years, kept my head down. I washed floors, fetched water, listened to sermons. Funny thing, after a while I started liking Desna's teachings, but as soon as I was old enough, I was out of there. I left Nidal and got as far away as I could. So Desna, also known as the Great Dreamer, Lady Luck, yeah, we've seen that in the intro. Yeah. Quite a ragtag group you got here, from nobles to street thieves. You got that right. Ha. Only the best for you. What do you do if the knights and nobles fail to save the world? The lowlives are our only hope. How did you meet Irabeth? I was bumming around Timon for a while back, doing this and that. Desnan temples sometimes gave me odd jobs, you know. Sometimes they needed people with skills like mine. On the surface it was fine, I guess. After Nidal, the freedom of river kingdoms should have seemed like heaven. My chance to sit back and enjoy life. But I wasn't happy. There just wasn't any job in my new life. I was all alone. Nobody cared about me, and I didn't care about anybody either. I struggled to find a reason to drag myself out of bed each morning. Tying a stone around my neck and jumping into the nearest river started to look pretty appealing. One day I was hired to follow some fellas who the local authorities suspected were Razmiran spies. I was stupid, I made a rookie mistake and they caught me. It's like my body had already decided to do what my mind had been fighting, to finally put me out of my misery. Get someone else to kill me, since I didn't have the guts to do it myself. They grabbed me. I thought they'd got me on the spot, but instead they hog-tied me and dragged me off. Just like an animal going to the slaughter, my only thought was, let's get this over with. They brought me to their stinking cave, threw me on their altar, and I realized who it was. Cuttites. Oh, so they worship this Zon Kuton from Nidal. They tracked me down after all those years, but I didn't care anymore. Wouldn't even have cared if they eaten me or whatever. We all gotta go sometime, right? So I was laying there, staring at those knives pointed at me, when fate rolled the dice and I hit the jackpot. Irabeth. There she was, storming into the cave. Picture it. I'm lying on an altar with all these knife-wielding maniacs around me. Suddenly Irabeth storms in. I thought it was Iyomedai herself. Fierce in her shining armor, with her gleaming sword raised, she made quick work of those scumbags. Chopped them up just like that. Didn't even have time to blink. She untied me and then Anivia's face lights up as she chuckles. She looked through the papers they had on the table and she started swearing like a sailor. So much for Yomedai. How did you and Irabeth end up in Kinabris? After almost becoming a human sacrifice, I knew I never wanted to leave Irabeth's side. Desna knows. I fell for her instantly, and I fell hard. My misery was gone. And when Irabeth showed me what was in those papers, proof that the cultist has a nest in her home city, well, I offered to help without a second thought. Anivia smiles warmly. She must have figured I couldn't wait to get my revenge on the cultists. But I didn't give a damn about them. It was her. I'd go anywhere with her, even on a crusade, or into the jaws of a dragon. But I took to life in Kenabres like a duck to water. I used to be an outcast wherever I went, but half of the crusaders are the same. After all, who'd volunteer to tangle with demons on the edge of the abyss? You gotta be either a goody two-shoes with too much honor and free time, or a misfit with no life out in the normal world with normal people. People come here to run away from their debts, their past, from themselves, so I fit right in. What is it like living with Irabeth? What is this question? It's like living. Without her, I wouldn't be. Seriously, if I were alone, I'd definitely be gone by now. Sure, sometimes we argue, can't deny that. Sometimes we bang our fists on the table and yell so loud that the walls shake. But that's all about order business. But at home, well, I'll give you an example. I've kinda always wanted to move out of that broom closet we call a house and into something cozier. It ain't like they take a vow of poverty at the Eagle Watch, but every month, somehow, most of our spare money is spent on crusader business. Sure, I get mad about it, but Anivia makes a helpless gesture. It's part of why I love her so much. You know, Irabeth has that thing that matters most for a person, a purpose in life. She always got a reason for whatever she's doing. Her whole life is a crusade, and I just drifted around like a leaf in the wind until Desna brought us together. Now she's the meaning of my life. So it really makes no difference if we live in a mansion or under a bush. Thank you for your answers. I have to say, these characters are a lot more interesting than the ones in Kingmaker so far. I like it. What are your responsibilities in the Eagle Watch? Anivia smiles evasively. Nothing official. I'm not even a knight, you know. I just hang around. You sure you want to know the details? Catching traitors and spies and cultists is no walk in the park. It's a delicate job. You can't always do it all within the letter of the law. What if we surprise some suspicious blighter with an official search? Everyone will know about it before long, starting with their cronies. Then again, sneaking into people's houses at night ain't exactly legal. Crusaders can't be doing stuff like that, can they? Well, I'm not exactly a knight. She trails off. Okay, have to go. Alright, you watch yourself now. Let's talk to Lan. Lan greets you with a nod. Here for a chat? I've been waiting for you to come and see what strange beasts you've taken into your party. I'd like to know more about you. Let me guess. Your first question is, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Am I right? You speak common much better than the rest of your tribe. Funnily enough, common isn't all that common underground, Lan says, but your observation is correct. I used to live on the surface with my parents for a while, and had a chance to learn a couple of things. The language, and the fact that every peasant who sees my scaly mug screams "Demon!" and runs away. I don't know if you're interested, but my mom wasn't from an underground tribe. She was a smuggler, the kind that used the dungeons of Kinabres to secretly move and store goods. One time, two gangs couldn't agree on how to share a prime cut, got into a fight, and the winners threw the losers down a hole, dead and living alike. My dad went to check if the corpses had anything useful on them, and he found a girl from the surface, barely clinging to life. An incredible feeling sparked between them. Maybe the girl just liked men with scales and a cat nose. That might be it. One way or another, he got her back on her feet, and he later even left his home caves. She left her smuggling behind. They began an honest life together. That's the delightful story of how Old Lan came into this world. The next chapter, however. My family and I never stayed in one place for long. We lived sometimes on the surface, sometimes underground. We couldn't find a place to call home. Living in the caves was hard on my mom, and my dad's appearance raised too many questions in Mendef. They're at war against the demons after all. In the end, my parents decided to stop making each other miserable and separated. My father and I returned to our tribe. I think the peasant screaming demon had something to do with it. Or maybe Dad just couldn't stand life without a rat tail soup. I wouldn't rule out the possibility. Did you come with me so you could see the surface again? No, that wasn't it. I just don't have much patience for certain types of creatures. Demons, I mean. If they want to destroy Canabres, I'll be on the side of the people they're attacking. Lan looks away. Lan, you're my companion, and companions should trust each other. I'm counting on you to give me an honest answer. Honest answers, not excuses. Yeah, please do. Lan looks ashamed. I guess you're right. I shouldn't have been so evasive. It's just that some things are hard to talk about. My family, for example. My birth, hell take me, turned out to be a great misfortune for my parents, all because I'm relatively healthy. I'm the best thing that can come from a marriage between a cave-dwelling mongrel and anyone from the surface. A healthy child with the right number of hands and feet, no apparent defects, no missing organs or other problems. They saw hope in me, so risked having more children. They thought it would somehow be alright. A growl edges into Lan's voice. I could have had 4 brothers. The first was born 2 years after me and died 3 years later. He didn't have a nose, nothing even remotely resembling one. He could only breathe through his mouth. Mom and Dad were afraid to take their eyes off him, for fear he'd choke and suffocate on something. But in the end it was his weak heart that killed him. Jesus Christ. Oh, that is rough. Then there was another pregnancy. In birth, I pretended I was sleeping, but snuck out of my bedroom and listened under the door. All those hours, it was very strange, but I never heard the newborn screaming. Mom moaning, yes, priests praying, and I dared to open the door a little and looked inside. The priest stood there, very pale. One of them was holding something, a small object that fits in his palm. He asked, "Do you know what this is?" And the other said, "I think it's a head." Lance stops. Jesus Christ. Very moving, but would you like to get to the point? Jesus, no, I want to know more, for sure. Land pauses, exhales, and continues in a steadier voice. Turned out that this time Mom was expecting triplets. The first of the babies was born in pieces, and the two others didn't live long enough to draw their first breath. About 3 weeks later, my father took me to the caves. He didn't want to leave. I could see it in his face. But I think my mom and he decided it together. The curse my people have carried since the first crusade stood between them, not to mention the 4 dead babies, and old age was rapidly taking its toll on my father. After we returned to the cave, he only lived another 4 years. So if you're asking me why I decided to go with you onto the surface and join the Crusaders, well, the answer is I've always wanted to. I was afraid to leave my tribe, but it always haunted me that I'd die in a world where 4 crusades could do nothing to stop the beast from the abyss. And the number of victims kept growing. I want to change that, or at least try to. And if changing things is too much to ask, then at least get a little revenge. The ones who are behind the world wound owe me a great debt. The lives of 4 brothers, all my mother's tears, my father's broken heart. It's a lot. So much that killing a couple of demons won't do it for me. I want to do something real, and I'm ready to pay any price. Call it my personal crusade if you like. Land gives you a slanted grin. I used to think that things would be better if I'd never been born. Now I think I was born for this, to settle the score. Yeah? Your parents' love didn't survive hardship, but that doesn't mean the same thing will happen to you. What if you found true love? Someone who won't leave you no matter what. And break my beloved's heart when I die in her arms 5 years later? It's a fine thing to do to the person you love. Then again, there's a chance I'll inspire some tragic bard to write a tearful ballad. I'm very sorry, truly. Lan smiles, this time sadly. Well, then I'm very lucky. I met someone who not only helped me choose the right path, but is happy to listen to my whining. Would you like to find your mother? No. The word flies from Lan's mouth faster than an arrow. Then after a pause he continues, I don't want to meet her, not because I feel any resentment, it's just that she's a half-elf. She's barely got her first grey hair, and I'll be a ramshackle old man. She's buried enough children. There's no need to make her witness the death of another one. I hope you understand. Wow, yeah. Hey, why didn't you go up and join the Crusaders before? Couldn't just abandon my tribe. I'm their best hunter. They'll have it much harder without me, now that the demons have nearly destroyed Canabras and the caves almost collapsed on our heads. Sitting and waiting it out just wasn't an option anymore. Anyway, I'm more useful up here than I am down there. Plus, the chief let me go, which means my debt to the tribe has been paid. Thanks for sharing, Lan. Thank you for listening. Mongrels have short lifespans, but you don't look like you're getting old or dying. How old are you? Lan chuckles. I'm as old as I look. No surprises there. But remember Sol? He's 10 years older than me. I remember him back when he was a fearless warrior. Day by day I watched him turn into an old man. Him and my father. It happens very quickly. First you miss a shot because you don't see the target as clearly as you used to. You think it's because your eyes are tired. You tell yourself it'll get better tomorrow. Then you notice you're having trouble breathing, that climbing is harder than before. Lan clenches and unclenches his human fist. Your fingers stop bending. You have to tie your sword to your hand. You can't even put on your greaves without help. When you're washing your face in a stream, sometimes you catch sight of a gray-haired, wrinkled old man you don't recognize. And this goes on until one day you come across a cave beast and you realize you can't outrun it. Lan takes a breath. My dad kept diaries, marking all the signs. And I saw it too the last year. I had to help him get out of bed, help him dress, remind him to eat. Sometimes he forgot my name. I told him that we should have stayed on the surface, and he joked that dodging a goddess was behavior unworthy of a crusader. He meant Pharasma. Every morning, I wake up and check how I feel. There are no signs yet. Even so, I know I don't have much time. I need to do something useful before I forget why I came here. Wow. I want to talk about Wenduag. Yeah, let's dig up some more shit. Are you sure? He sighs. Alright. Tell me about your connection to Wenduag. My connection to Wenduag? I mean, where do I start? Lan turns the unexpressive reptile half of his face to you. We grew up together, trained together. She was the chief's daughter. She was groomed to be the best all her life. Then I came along. We were rivals. We dragged each other out of tight spots too. I've always been drawn to grand, heroic gestures, sometimes idiotic ones. Whereas Wendu likes to roam unexplored passages, finding new cave and making new maps. She wanted to be a great huntress, the one who'd make it through the shield maze, but instead she... Lan shakes his head. It'd be better if she died. The death of a friend is painful, but watching a friend become a shadow of their former self is unbearable. She doesn't think she's a shadow of her former self. Of course, she thinks she did everything right, because the second she starts to doubt herself, she'll have to face the truth, to admit that she's just a cannibal that demons use as they wish. Lan's frown looks almost like a wince. She wants to get stronger and stronger, but for what? I'll never understand what drives her. Were you just friends, or were you more than that? Wow, you really don't pull your punches, do you? Lan exhales loudly. There was a time when I asked myself the same question. Wenduag knew me better than anyone. She understood me better than anyone. She was like my first woman. But we never loved each other. Maybe I could have grown to love her, but it always seemed like she never understood what love was. Maybe she just wasn't capable of these kinds of feelings. Too bad you and Wenduag didn't work out, but there are plenty of other women around who might like you. Me for oh shit. I am I doing this? Am I starting a fucking romance with the guy who will die in 10 years while I am a half elf? He's never going to want this, right? Yeah, let's not do that. Alright. So, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Sure I can, but certain designs don't suit me very well. Lan speaks in a deadly serious voice. I found out everything I wanted to know, thank you. Sure thing? Oh shit, he has a lot more. Tell me about your people. Of course, what would you like to know? What's it like living in your caves? Oh, Lan gives you the broad smile. The smile is strange, as if it falters where his human features meet his animal ones. Imagine that in the entire world there's only a few hundreds like you. There's not an inch of fertile ground anywhere. Nowhere to grow grain for bread, or cotton and linen for cloth. Your neighbors are beasts who want to eat you, or parasites who want to infect you with their larvae, and then eat you. And it's not that bad, because you can try to eat most of the things that are trying to eat you, sometimes at the risk of getting poisoned, sometimes with almost no risk at all. In the worst years, there's not a single living thing anywhere to be found, predator or prey. That's when you eat mushroom soup. I'd say 3 times a day, but there was barely enough for once every 3 days. Lan shrugs. Life underground has its upsides. Pun intended. There's no risk of losing the roof over your head. There's no bad weather. Not counting the earthquakes, of course. Are you really the descendants of the first Crusaders? More like demon spawn, aren't we? Sad but true. Without the demons, there would be no mongrels. It's the magic of the world wound that affected our ancestors and made their children the way we are. Like most in our tribe, Chief Soul fancies himself a descendant of the underground crusaders, the ones our heroic ancestors left to guard the caves. I don't know if it's true or not. That angel came to our cave for a reason. Maybe he remembered us? Those were evil and dangerous times after the First Crusade. Hundreds of crusaders began having children, and the babies were born with fangs and horns and warts that covered half their face. People didn't like the new look. The Inquisitors sure didn't, so our ancestors fled persecution and made a home for themselves down there, under the ground. They probably intended to find a cure for their children and hoped to return in time, but it never happened. Instead, the World Wound's terrible legacy was passed down from generation to generation. Mongrel parents can only guess what their child will look like. Each of us is born with a new mutation. Many mutations are fatal. Lance stops, then goes on quietly. Down in the caves, we usually don't congratulate the family for the birth of a child until they turn out at least 3. Most don't even get a name before that. There is no point. It hasn't been that long since the First Crusade. What do you know? Why do you know so little about your ancestors? Our lives are much shorter than most uplanders. Up here, only a few generations passed, and many still live who remember old Sarkoris as it stood untouched by the demons. Queen Galfrey, for example. But where we live, mongrels start getting old much earlier than humans, much faster and with more devastating consequences. Few live past 40, and fewer still live long enough to die of old age. Hunger, disease, and monsters from the deep are more effective killers than time. So for us, the story of the First Crusade is a legend that happened generations ago. There are no living witnesses. We have a tale of the wise and great ancestors who left us to stand guard in the catacombs. But in reality, I suspect they were desperate wretches who couldn't figure out how to dispel the demonic plague, and who were abandoned by their own kind. Do you have a way to tell day and night? You can't see the sun in your caves. Every mongrel settlement has a big gong, which we treat like a relic. The gong keeper hits it twice a day to mark the beginning and end. But this custom doesn't keep time very precisely. Every mongrel child has snuck up to the gong to strike it at the wrong time at least once, just out of pure mischief. Nothing could keep me away from it, not even the fact that I only have one ear, which means it would take double the punishment once I was caught. So, sometimes the wrong strikes get mixed in with the right ones, and the tribe can find itself jumping up to greet the morning in the middle of the night. The mongrel tribes fight each other. There were some skirmishes, and I've been forced to kill my kinfolk before too. Lan speaks in a steady voice. Fights most often break out over food. We have laws in the caves, written and unwritten rules that we follow. We respect one another's right to live, but hunger can push a person over the edge. I've never, you can count on that, stolen someone else's kill. But I can understand those of my kin who tried. To hear your kids begging for food and not be able to feed them is terrifying. He frowns and goes silent. You're the only member of the Needholm tribe to call your people mongrels. Why is that? Uh, because all of Golarion calls us that? I don't see the point of all this hemming and hawing over what we're called. Anyone who finds it offensive or takes issues with it can lead the charge against the name. No one's stopping them, but personally, I'm not going to pick a fight over something as unimportant as a name. Yeah. Thank you. When you think of life on the surface, it must be very different from life underground. Of course, as far as living conditions, the surface is definitely a better place to be. It's easier to get good food and water, not to mention build a house and even grow a few things. In older, well-established settlements, you don't have to deal with anything scarier than rats, maybe foxes stealing chickens. As for the kind of lives you have, I heard a story about demon worshippers abducting a whole family and sacrificing them one by one while the others watched. There were some brave Crusader knights nearby, and they killed the villains and saved everyone's. And I heard another story. A young blacksmith lost his arm in a fire, couldn't work to feed his wife and baby. They tried their best and lived from hand to mouth, but they were still destitute. In the end, the desperate blacksmith robbed a traveler one night on the road. But there were some brave Crusader knights nearby, and they caught the robber and threw him in prison. Not long after, his wife smothered their baby and hanged herself. Mm. Up here, the same person can proudly say he's protecting the innocent from demons, and then look the other way while the same innocent starves just because they were born into a poor family. Queen Galfrey prolongs her life with sun orchid elixirs that cost enough to feed an entire city. Back in our caves, everyone is equally poor, and if one person starves, the whole tribe starves. We don't abandon our own in times of trouble. That's the power of a tribe. The laws of the surface are made so that some get everything and others get nothing. I might just be a naive fool from the caves, but I don't understand how it's possible to have so much more and share so much less. Anyway, look who I'm talking to. You must know life on the surface much better than I do. Oh yes, I also have a few questions for our feckless aristocracy. But I guess they'll have to wait until we drive the demons back into the abyss and close the world wound. Lan smiles, his strange half smile, which breaks along the borders between the two sides of his face. At the end of the day, the world is full of injustice, but it's also full of mad beasts ready to tear us to pieces. You said you were prepared to risk your life to do something meaningful. What exactly did you mean? To invent a new salad and have it named after me, Lan remarks grimly. Then he sighs. Truth be told, I don't know. Would be much easier if all I really wanted was to kill demons. Then a few more demons. Then more demons after that. Good honest rage and no needless brooding. I think I actually envy the warriors who can live like that. But I can't. If life's taught me anything, it's that there are no easy choices. Dying a glorious death isn't enough. Some heroes of the Crusades did that, and also saved entire settlements. erected the ward stones. Their actions kept the land of Mendev safe for decades. That's what I want, for my dumb, short life to have meant something. You think I have an exaggerated opinion of myself? Some scaly freak crawls out of the caves and wants to take control of the ward stones and flaunt Iomede's banner? Any fool can charge at the front lines of the demonic armies and die there. But what good will that do? I want something meaningful, you know? Even if I have to pay the highest price, especially if I have to do it. There are plenty of worthier people who need to survive this war and tell everyone else what nutcases we were. Thank you for your answers so long. Yeah, I think I will end the episode here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.